I heard it before I saw it. Not a howl, not a growl. Something I'd never heard in 15 years as a Montana wildlife ranger, a sound that made my blood run cold. A whine. High-pitched, desperate, almost human. Two timber wolves stood in the middle of Forest Road 12, refusing to move. The female had a scar on her shoulder I recognized instantly. 6 months ago, I'd cut her free from a rancher's snare. Against protocol, against common sense. That was the day my wife died. Now this wolf was back, staring directly at me through my truck windshield. Not at the vehicle. At me. Her yellow eyes held something impossible. Recognition. She whined again, then looked behind her and back at me. The message was clear as day. Follow me. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. At 67 years old, with 3 months until forced retirement and $18,000 in nursing home debt still crushing me, I should have driven away. But I'd seen that look before. In Elizabeth's eyes, right before she stopped recognizing my face forever, pure, desperate plea, the kind that says, "Please, I'll do anything, just help me." Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from now. Let's continue with the story. My name is Thomas Walker, but everyone calls me Tom. I'm 67 years old, and this morning I woke up in a cabin so cold I could see my breath. I've closed off the upstairs rooms to save on propane. Heat costs money I don't have. My 1998 Ford truck has rust holes in the bed and no air conditioning. The driver's side door doesn't lock anymore. I keep the same peanut butter and jelly sandwich in my lunchbox every single day because, well, peanut butter doesn't expire, and I'm what you might call financially challenged. My Ranger uniform has been patched so many times it looks like a quilt. My knees sound like Rice Krispies when I stand. Snap, crackle, pop. I wear reading glasses on a chain around my neck like my grandmother used to. At my age, every day above ground is a good day, or so they say. 2 years ago, my wife Elizabeth died from Alzheimer's disease. She spent 14 months in a nursing home that cost $8,000 a month. Do the math. That's $112,000. My ranger salary is $42,000 a year. I sold our house. I sold my car and bought this truck for $800. I sold my fishing boat, my tools, everything I'd spent a lifetime collecting. I still owe $18,000 on a payment plan that takes $400 from my monthly check. After bills, I've got about $200 for food. Some months I choose between my heart medication and groceries. The medication usually loses. Every night for those 14 months, I slept on a chair beside Elizabeth's bed. Toward the end, she didn't recognize me. She'd look at me with confused, frightened eyes and ask who I was. When I told her I was her husband, she'd say, "My husband wouldn't put me in this place." Those words still wake me up at 3 in the morning. My daughter Jennifer, Jenny, hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. She believes I abandoned her mother, that I gave up and dumped Elizabeth in that facility to make my life easier. I never told Jenny about selling everything. I never explained that the nursing home was Elizabeth's choice, not mine. Pride, I guess. Stupid, stubborn pride. Jenny has an 8-year-old daughter named Lily. My granddaughter. I've never met her. I have one photo Jenny sent 3 years ago before everything fell apart. Lily has blue eyes, just like Elizabeth did. I have no one to call, no one to text. No one cares if I come home tonight. This morning, standing in my kitchen with instant coffee and stale bread, I realized something terrible. I've become invisible. I cut the engine and stepped out slowly, my knees protesting with every movement. The 2 wolves stood 20 feet ahead on the dirt road, watching me with an intensity that should have been terrifying. The female was about 85 pounds, gray coat with that distinctive scar slicing across her left shoulder. The male was larger, maybe 100 pounds, with a black-gray coat and a noticeable limp in his back right leg. Both had yellow eyes that caught the morning light. They weren't behaving like normal wolves. Wolves run from humans. It's instinct, survival. Millions of years of evolution telling them we're dangerous. But these two stood their ground. Not aggressive, not defensive. Something else entirely. The female started pacing, taking a few quick steps toward my truck, then spinning around to look behind her, then back at me. The male positioned himself protectively between her and me, but his tail was lowered, ears back, non-threatening posture. They were trying to tell me something. That's when the scar clicked into place in my memory. 6 months ago, late September, I'd been checking trap lines on the border of public forest and private ranch land when I heard yelping. Found this same female wolf caught in an illegal snare, the wire cutting deep into her shoulder. She'd been there for hours, maybe days, nearly dead from exhaustion and blood loss. Protocol said to radio it in, let Fish and Wildlife handle it. But she'd looked at me with those yellow eyes, and I'd seen something I couldn't ignore. Pain, fear, the same look Elizabeth had when the ambulance took her to the nursing home for the first time. I'd cut the snare with my wire cutters. The wolf had limped away, looking back once before disappearing into the trees. That was September 23rd, the same day Elizabeth died. I'd gone straight from freeing that wolf to the nursing home, where a nurse met me at the door with tears in her eyes. Elizabeth had passed an hour earlier. Peacefully, they said. I'd missed her by 60 minutes. I'd freed a wolf but couldn't save my wife. Now here she was again, the same wolf. And she recognized me. I could see it in the way she looked at me, not with fear, but with something that looked uncomfortably like hope. "What do you want, girl?" I said quietly. She barked once, sharp and urgent, then turned and started walking down the road. Stopped. Looked back. The message was unmistakable. Follow me. The male wolf stayed put, watching me, waiting to see what I'd do. I should have radioed dispatch, should have called it in. But something in my gut, the same instinct that had made me cut that snare, told me this was different, this was important. "All right," I said, more to myself than the wolves. "Let's see what you need." I grabbed my radio and work gloves from the truck but left it running, door open. If this went sideways, I wanted a quick escape route. Then I followed on foot. And the female led me off the road about 200 yards into the forest. The male stayed close but behind me, not threatening, just watchful. It was the strangest feeling, walking through dense Montana wilderness with two wild wolves, one leading, one following, like I was part of some ancient pack ritual. We stopped at a clearing I didn't recognize, old mining territory from the looks of it, and there, right in the center, was a pit about 8 feet across. My heart sank when I looked inside. It was filled with thick, dark mud from recent rains. And chest deep in that mud, struggling weakly, was a wolf pup. Couldn't have been more than 8 weeks old, silver-gray coat matted and filthy, blue eyes still. They don't turn yellow until around 3 months. The pup's head was barely above the surface. Its cries were weak, raspy, exhausted. This little thing had been fighting for its life for God knows how long. The female wolf stood at the edge, clawing uselessly at the soft dirt, whining. The male circled, frustrated, trying to find an angle that would work. But the pit was too deep, the sides too unstable. Any attempt to reach the pup would just send them sliding into. They'd done the only thing they could do. They'd found a human. Found me, specifically. The one human who'd shown mercy before. I knelt carefully at the pit's edge, my knees cracking loud enough to make the male wolf's ears perk up. The pup looked up at me with those blue eyes, innocent, terrified, dying. And all I could think was, not this time. This one I'm not too late for. I pulled my radio from my belt with shaking hands. My chest felt tight, but I ignored it. At my age, everything hurts. "Dispatch, this is Ranger Walker, over." Static crackled for a moment, Then Sarah Mitchell's voice came through. Sarah's 45, been a ranger almost as long as me. Good woman, practical, sometimes too practical. Go ahead, Tom. I've got a situation. Wolf pup trapped in a mud pit, Forest Road 12. Need to report the location. There was a pause, longer than it should have been. Tom, what's your exact position? I gave her the coordinates, reading them off my GPS unit. Another pause, even longer this time. When Sarah spoke again, her voice had changed. Careful, worried. Tom, that's Caldwell's land. My stomach dropped. You sure? Positive. Mile marker 7, that whole section. Tom, those aren't natural pits. I looked at the hole again, really looked at it. The edges were too clean, too deliberate. This wasn't an old mining collapse or a natural sinkhole. Someone had dug this. Sarah, what's going on? Michael Caldwell, local rancher, 55 years old. You know about the wolf situation 5 years back? Refresh my memory. Wolves killed 30% of his cattle herd in one night. Cost him about $180,000. But that's not the worst part. Sarah's voice softened. His son, 17 at the time, went out alone to check on the herd. 3 wolves chased him. He fell down a ravine trying to get away. I closed my eyes. How bad? Wheelchair. Traumatic brain injury. Kid's 22 now, lives with his parents, needs full-time care. Jesus. Caldwell blamed the wolves. Started digging these pits about 2 years ago. Calls them water reservoirs for wildlife, but everyone knows what they really are. Traps. He's killed 7 wolves that we know of. The pup whimpered below me, weaker now. The mud had risen to its chin. Forest Service knows about this? I asked. We know, but Caldwell's got connections. County commissioners, his brother-in-law, local ranchers support him. They've all lost livestock to wolves. We can't prove the pits are intentional traps. And he's got the paperwork showing their legal water features on private land. That's bullshit, Sarah. I know, but it's legal bullshit. She paused. Tom, if you interfere with this, Caldwell will file a complaint. You're 3 months from retirement. Don't risk your pension. There's a pup dying in front of me. Then call Fish and Wildlife. Let them handle it. Follow protocol. Protocol. That word tasted like poison in my mouth. Sarah, let me ask you something. Tom, if Caldwell's son fell in that pit, would you save him? Silence. That's different, she finally said. Is it because this mother wolf doesn't think so? I looked at the female. She was watching me, those yellow eyes pleading. The male stood beside her, protective but not aggressive. They'd overcome every instinct that told them humans were dangerous. They'd made themselves vulnerable because they had no other choice. Tom, you'll lose your job. You'll lose your health insurance. You can't afford that. I know your situation. You don't know everything, Sarah. Then enlighten me. I watched the pup struggling, watched its little head dip below the surface for a second before it fought its way back up, coughing. My wife died 2 years ago. Alzheimer's. Spent 14 months in a nursing home that cost more than I'll make in 3 years. I sold everything I owned to keep her there. My house, my car, everything. My voice cracked. And you know what? At the end, she didn't even know who I was. She looked at me like I was a stranger who'd put her in that place against her will. Tom, I'm sorry. My daughter hasn't spoken to me since the funeral. She thinks I abandoned her mother. That I took the easy way out. I never told her the truth because I'm too damn proud and too damn stubborn. The pup's cries were barely audible now. I followed protocol my whole life, Sarah. Did everything by the book. Put my wife in that facility because the doctor said it was medically necessary. Lost my daughter because I couldn't swallow my pride and explain what really happened. I looked at the wolves, at the pup. I'm not following protocol anymore. Not today. Tom, I'm 67 years old. I've been following rules that destroyed my family. If I walk away from this pup, if I let it die because some regulation says I shouldn't interfere, then what the hell was any of it for? Long silence on the radio. Then Sarah's voice, quieter than before. Caldwell patrols his land with a rifle, Tom. He sees you messing with his trap. There's no telling what he'll do. Then I better work fast. You're really doing this? Yeah, I really am. Another pause. Then, I'll keep the channel open, just in case you need backup. Sarah, I didn't hear that last part. Radio's been acting up all morning. Terrible static. I couldn't possibly hear what you're doing out there. Her voice was carefully neutral. Be careful, Tom. Always am. I clipped the radio back to my belt and looked at the wolves. The female whined softly, hopefully. The male tilted his head, waiting. Okay, girl, I said. Let's see if this old man's still got it. My knees cracked as I stood. My back ached. My chest was still tight. But I headed back toward my truck at a pace somewhere between a walk and a shuffle, those two wolves watching every step. In my truck bed, under a tarp, I had a wooden plank from an old project. 8 feet long, maybe 6 inches wide, and a coil of rope. Time to find out if 67 was too old to save a life. I hauled the plank from my truck bed, the wood heavier than I remembered. My shoulders screamed in protest, but I gritted my teeth and dragged it back through the forest. The rope I coiled over my shoulder along with my work gloves. The wolves waited exactly where I'd left them, the female pacing anxiously, the male standing guard over the pit. When they saw me returning with equipment, the female's ears perked forward. She understood. Somehow she understood I was trying to help. I laid the plank across the pit, testing the edges for stability. The wood sagged in the middle, creaking ominously. I secured one end with rocks from the clearing, building a small cairn to anchor it. The other end rested on the opposite side. But even as I eyeballed it, my heart sank. The plank was at least 6 inches too short. I'd have to lean way out over the pit to reach that pup. 90% of my body weight suspended over 8 feet of sucking mud, supported by wood that was already groaning under pressure. At 67, with bad knees and worse luck, those weren't great odds. I tested my weight on the plank, stepped on, shifted forward, felt it bow beneath me. It would hold. Maybe. The key word being maybe. Behind me, the female wolf whined. I glanced back. She'd moved closer, maybe 10 feet away now. Close enough that I could see the details of her face, the graying around her muzzle, the way her ears twitched nervously, the absolute desperation in those yellow eyes. The males stayed further back with their pup safe on solid ground, watching everything with predator alertness. But he wasn't threatening. He was worried. If wolves could worry, he was doing it. I know, girl, I muttered. I'm trying. I pulled on my work gloves and stepped onto the plank again. Carefully, weight on my back foot, I shuffled forward. The wood bowed deeper. That creaking sound got louder. I leaned forward, extending my arms toward the pup, 8 inches short. The pup looked up at me, blue eyes wide with exhaustion and fear. Mud covered most of its small body. I could see it shivering, could see how weak it had become. This little thing had been fighting to stay alive for hours, maybe longer. I shifted my weight slightly forward, felt the plank sag another inch, 6 inches short. My chest tightened. That familiar pain, sharp and insistent, radiated down my left arm. I'd been ignoring it all morning, but now it demanded attention. Heart trouble. I knew the signs. Had been living with them for 2 years, ever since the stress of Elizabeth's illness nearly killed me the first time. The pup's head dipped below the surface. No! The word burst out of me. The pup's nose broke the surface again, coughing, gasping. I shifted more weight forward, 70% now. The plank cracked, not breaking, but warning me it was close. And 4 inches short. Behind me, the female barked, sharp, urgent, not aggressive, encouraging, like she was saying, "You can do this. Please, just a little more." I thought about Elizabeth, about the day they told me she needed 24-hour care, that I couldn't manage her at home anymore, about the impossible choice: keep trying and watch her hurt herself, or place her somewhere safe and watch her think I'd abandoned her. I'd chosen safety, protocol, the medically necessary option, and it destroyed us both. I thought about Jenny, about the look on her face at Elizabeth's funeral when she'd said, "You gave up on her, Dad. You just gave up." About 2 years of silence, about a granddaughter I'd never met, would probably never meet because I was too proud to explain, to beg, to fight for what mattered. I thought about this morning, standing in my kitchen, realizing I had nobody to call, nobody who cared. This pup had somebody who cared. This pup had a mother who'd overcome millions of years of evolution, who'd put herself at risk from a human predator, who'd begged for help because her baby needed saving. That pup had something I'd lost. "Not this time," I whispered. I lunged forward, committing 95% of my weight over that pit. The plank shrieked, bent like a bow. My fingertips brushed wet fur. The female barked again, frantic now. I stretched further, felt something in my lower back pop, ignored it, wrapped my fingers around the pup's scruff, and pulled. The mud fought back. It was like pulling a tree from the ground, like wrestling with something malevolent and alive. The suction was incredible. The pup yelped, a sharp, painful sound, but I couldn't let go. "Come on," I grunted. "Come on, baby. Work with me." I pulled harder. My shoulder muscles screamed. My chest pain exploded into something bright and terrible. My vision blurred at the edges. But the pup moved. 1 inch. 2 inches. Behind me, both wolves were barking now, not at me, at the pit, like they were yelling at it to let go of their baby. The mud made an obscene sucking sound. The pup came free suddenly, all at once, and I fell backward onto the plank with the tiny mud-covered creature clutched to my chest. The plank cracked loud as a gunshot. I rolled sideways off the wood just as it split down the middle and dropped into the pit with a wet thud. For a moment, I just lay there on solid ground, the pup on my chest, both of us breathing hard. My heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The pain in my chest had gone from sharp to crushing. Not yet, I thought. Just a few more minutes. Let me finish this. I lifted the pup off my chest and set it gently on the grass. It coughed, vomited mud, gasped, coughed again. Then it drew a real breath. Its sides expanded. Those blue eyes blinked at me, confused, but alive. The female was there instantly. She rushed forward. I tensed, waiting for teeth, but she ignored me completely. Her focus was entirely on her pup. She started licking it frantically, cleaning mud from its face, its ears, checking for injuries with her nose. The male approached more cautiously. He sniffed the pup, then looked at me. Really looked at me. We locked eyes for a long moment. Then he lowered his head slightly. Not submission, acknowledgement, recognition of what I'd done. I tried to stand, got about halfway up before my legs gave out and I sat down hard. The chest pain was worse now, spreading across my entire upper body. My left arm was completely numb. This was bad. This was really bad. But the pup was alive. It was coughing and whimpering and squirming under its mother's attention, which meant it was alive. I'd made it in time for this one. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with trembling hands. Martha Ellis. My neighbor, 74 years old, the only person who still checked on me. I almost didn't answer, but she'd called twice. That meant it was important. "Martha," I said, my voice rough, "this isn't a good time. Tom Walker, you listen to me." Her voice was sharp, brooking no argument. "Jenny called me." My world stopped. "What?" "She's been trying to reach you. Your radio's been tied up. Tom, she found something. A letter. From Elizabeth." I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "What letter?" "Elizabeth gave it to me 2 years ago, before she couldn't anymore. Made me promise to give it to Jenny when the time was right." Martha's voice softened. "Jenny's read it. She's crying, Tom. She wants to talk to you." Everything I'd been holding for 2 years, all the grief, the guilt, the loneliness, rose up in my throat. "I can't," I choked out. "Not now. There's—" The pup whimpered. The female wolf looked up at me, mud on her snout, and in her eyes I saw everything. Gratitude, understanding. That impossible connection between two parents who do anything for their young. "Martha, tell her I'll call. I promise, but right now I have to—" The pain spiked, sharp and sudden. I gasped. Tom, what's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine. Just tell her." I had to stop, had to breathe. "Tell her I love her. Tell her I never gave up. I never—" "Tom!" I hung up. Couldn't hold the phone anymore. It slipped from my fingers into the grass. The female wolf had finished cleaning her pup. Now she picked it up gently by the scruff and carried it back to where the male waited. The pup dangled from her mouth, looking impossibly small, impossibly fragile. They should have run, should have taken their baby and disappeared into the forest, away from the human who could still be dangerous. But the female set the pup down beside the male, and then she did something I'll never forget. She walked back to me. I was on the ground now, couldn't remember lying down. The sky above was bright blue with scattered clouds. Beautiful day. Elizabeth always loved days like this. The female wolf approached until she was maybe 3 feet away. She stopped, tilted her head, and looked at me with those yellow eyes. Then she lowered her head and touched her nose to my hand. Just for a second, just long enough. A thank you. A goodbye. A promise that she'd remember. Then she turned, collected her family, and disappeared into the trees. I lay there, watching the clouds, feeling my heart beat irregular rhythms against my ribs. My vision was tunneling, darkness creeping in from the edges. A memory surfaced, clear and sharp despite the pain. Elizabeth and I on our wedding day. She was 22, wearing a white dress she'd sewn herself, flowers in her hair. We'd danced to some song I can't remember in a church basement with 50 people, and she'd looked up at me and said, "You're going to catch me every time I fall, aren't you?" "Always," I'd promised. "That's what husbands do." Another memory. Jenny, 10 months old, taking her first wobbly steps. Elizabeth laughing, saying, "Let her fall, Tom. She needs to learn." But I couldn't help it. Every time Jenny teetered, my hands shot out. Every time I caught her. "You'll always catch her," Elizabeth had said, shaking her head with that smile that meant she thought I was ridiculous but loved me anyway. "You can't help yourself." "Always," I'd said. "That's what dads do." I'd failed Elizabeth, failed to catch her when Alzheimer's stole her mind piece by piece, failed to save her from confusion and fear and that terrible moment when she'd looked at me like a stranger. I'd failed Jenny, failed to explain, to reach out, to swallow my pride and fight for our relationship. But I'd saved this pup. I'd caught this one. Maybe that counted for something. A sound penetrated the fog, an engine. Close, getting closer. I turned my head slightly. Through the trees I could see a truck, beat-up Chevy, rifle rack in the back window. The engine cut off. A door opened and slammed. Footsteps, heavy boots on forest floor. A man's voice, rough with age and anger. "What the hell are you doing on my land?" I tried to answer. Couldn't form words. The man came into view, standing over me. 55 or so, weathered face, the kind of hard lines that come from years of outdoor work and harder years of pain. He was limping, and it took me a second to realize why. Prosthetic leg, left side from the knee down. He was carrying a rifle, not pointed at me yet, but held ready. "You're that ranger," he said. "Walker, the one who's been freeing wolves from my traps." Michael Caldwell. Had to be. I managed to whisper, "The pup. You saved it." Not a question, an accusation. "My pit was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, and you interfered." I tried to speak, to explain, but the words wouldn't come. The pain was too much. Everything was too much. Caldwell stepped closer, and I saw his face clearly. The anger, yes, the hardness, but underneath, something else, something familiar. His eyes. I knew those eyes, and suddenly, impossibly, I knew this man. "Mike?" I whispered. The rifle lowered slightly. Caldwell's face changed. "What did you call me?" "Mikey. From 3rd Squad?" His face went white. "Tommy?" The world spun. 45 years collapsed into nothing. And the last thing I thought before the darkness took me was, oh God, not Mike, anyone but Mike. Vietnam, 1969. I was 20 years old. The memory came flooding back as I lay there on the ground, Michael Caldwell's shocked face above me. I couldn't stop it. Didn't want to stop it. Maybe I needed to remember. Maybe we both did. I'd been a combat medic with 3rd Squad, 1st Platoon, attached to an infantry company working the Central Highlands. Mike Caldwell was our rifleman, 19 years old, fresh-faced kid from Montana, with a smile that could charm anyone. He called me Tommy. I was the only one he allowed to call him Mikey. We'd been in country 8 months when it happened. Recon patrol. 5 of us. Me, Mike, Jackson, Rodriguez, and Sergeant Hernandez. Simple mission. Check a village, report back. Should have been routine. It wasn't. The ambush hit us half a click from the village. 20, maybe 30 Viet Cong fighters materialized from the jungle. Hernandez went down in the first volley, headshot, dead before he hit the ground. Jackson took rounds to the chest and abdomen. Rodriguez caught shrapnel from a grenade, his left leg torn open, femoral artery pumping blood. And Mike was hit in the right thigh. I saw him go down, saw the blood, knew immediately it was bad. Femoral artery, just like Rodriguez. 2 men bleeding out. Maybe 2 minutes before they were gone, I was the medic. The only medic. I had to choose. Rodriguez and Jackson were together, maybe 10 feet from my position behind a fallen log. Mike was 30 feet away in the open, exposed, taking fire. 2 wounded close to me, 1 wounded far away. The math was brutal and simple. I could reach 2 men immediately, or I could cross 30 feet of open ground under heavy fire to reach 1. "Tommy!" Mike screamed. "Help me! I'm hit!" I looked at Rodriguez, blood pooling around him, looked at Jackson, struggling to breathe through punctured lungs, looked at Mike, clutching his leg, eyes wide with terror. I made the choice medics are never supposed to make. I went to Rodriguez and Jackson first. "Tommy, please!" Mike's voice was raw, desperate. "Don't leave me!" "I'm coming!" I shouted back, my hands already working on Rodriguez's leg, trying to stop the bleeding. "Hold on, Mike! Just hold on!" I got a tourniquet on Rodriguez. Got pressure bandages on Jackson's chest. 60 seconds, maybe 90. Felt like hours. When I finally looked up, Mike had gone quiet. I crawled across that 30 feet, bullets kicking up dirt around me, certain I'd find him dead. He wasn't dead, but he was close. He'd managed to get his belt off, tried to make his own tourniquet, but it wasn't tight enough. He'd lost so much blood his lips were blue. "Why?" he whispered when I reached him. "Why them first?" "I had to," I said, my hands working frantically. "I had to save who I could save. You chose them over me. I chose to save 3 instead of 1. His eyes found mine. "You made a choice." I'll never forget that, Tommy. I got him stabilized. Medevac came. All 3 survived the initial extraction, but Mike's leg was too damaged. The delayed treatment meant tissue death, infection. They amputated below the knee in the field hospital. Rodriguez and Jackson both lived. Rodriguez lost his leg too, but below the ankle, he could still walk with a prosthetic. Jackson recovered fully, went home after his tour. Mike spent 6 months in hospitals. Never spoke to me again. When I tried to visit, he turned his face to the wall. When I tried to explain, he told the nurse to make me leave. The last thing he ever said to me was through that nurse, "Tell Tommy I understand." He made a choice. Numbers over friendship. I get it, but I'll never forgive it. I was transferred to a different unit a month later. Never saw Mike Caldwell again, until today, 45 years later, in a Montana forest, standing over me with a rifle while I lay dying from a heart attack. The universe has a sick sense of humor. "Tommy?" Mike's voice pulled me back to the present. The rifle was lowered now, hanging loose in his hands. "Jesus Christ. Tommy Walker. I didn't know you were here." I managed to focus on his face. Still Mike underneath all those years. Same eyes, same jaw, but harder now. Pain carved into every line. "Small world," I whispered. Tried to smile. Failed. Mike dropped to his knees beside me. "You're having a heart attack." "Yeah, noticed that." His hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking my pulse, my breathing. Once a soldier, always a soldier. "I need to call this in." He pulled a radio from his belt. "This is Michael Caldwell. I need emergency services. Forest Road 12, mile marker 7. Heart attack victim, Ranger Tom Walker. We need life flight." The dispatcher's voice crackled back. "Mr. Caldwell, helicopter is already en route. Ranger Mitchell called it in 10 minutes ago. ETA 8 minutes. Sarah." God bless Sarah. Mike put the radio down and looked at me. Really looked at me. "Why'd you save that wolf pup, Tommy?" "Because..." I had to stop, breathe. "Because a mother asked me to. That's it. That's your reason. She trusted me. How could I say no?" Mike's face twisted. "I've been killing wolves for 2 years. You know why? Because they killed my cattle, cost me everything. And then they went after my son." "I heard. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't give him his legs back." His voice broke. "He's 22 years old, Tommy. He should be playing football, chasing girls, living his life. Instead, he's in a wheelchair because wolves chased him down a goddamn ravine." The pain in his voice was so raw, it hurt worse than my chest. "Mike, I'm sorry about your cattle, about your son. I am. But that pup didn't do it. They're all the same." "No, they're not. Just like people aren't all the same." I struggled to keep my eyes focused on him. "That female wolf, I freed her from a trap 6 months ago. She remembered. She came to me for help because I'd shown mercy before." "Wolves don't remember." "She did. I swear to God, Mike, she recognized me. She looked right at me, and she remembered." I coughed, tasted copper. "She's just a mother trying to save her baby. Like your son is just a kid who made a mistake, like we were just soldiers trying to survive." Mike's face was stone. "I've spent 45 years hating you for the choice you made in that jungle. I know. You chose them over me. You left me bleeding while you saved them first. I did. And now you chose a goddamn wolf over following the law, over your job, over common sense. I did. Why?" His voice rose. "Why do you keep making these insane choices?" I looked up at the sky, clouds moving slowly across blue. Beautiful day. "Because, Mike, if we don't choose mercy when we can, what's the point of any of it? All this pain, all this survival, all these years? If we can't choose to save something when it's dying right in front of us, then what the hell are we living for?" Silence. Long enough that I thought maybe I'd said the wrong thing, maybe pushed him too far. Then Mike's voice, quiet and broken. "My son wasn't trying to hurt the wolves, Tommy. He was trying to help one. It had a limp. He thought maybe it needed medical attention. He's always been like that, too kind, too trusting. Like someone else I used to know." Mike's face crumpled. "I've been punishing wolves for protecting their pack, for doing exactly what I would have done, what any parent would do. Mike. And I've been punishing you for 45 years for doing your job, for making an impossible choice under fire, for saving 2 lives instead of 1. You had every right to be angry." "Did I?" He looked at his prosthetic leg. "I lived, Tommy. I'm alive. I got married, had a son, built a ranch. I've had 45 years of life because you saved me, and I spent those years hating you for not saving me first." The helicopter sound was audible now, distant but getting closer. "We're both still fighting that war," I said. "Both still bleeding from choices made a lifetime ago." Mike wiped his face with a rough hand. "I'm tired, Tommy. So damn tired." "Me too. Those pits I dug. They're not water reservoirs. I know. I've killed 7 wolves, trapped them, watched them die, told myself it was justice. Mike, I killed your wolf, Tommy, the female. Not 6 months ago, before that, last year. Caught her in a pit, shot her, left her. My heart, already struggling, seemed to stop completely." "What?" "That scar on her shoulder. That's my bullet. She escaped somehow, survived." He looked at the trees where the wolves had disappeared. "I tried to kill her, and she still trusted a human enough to ask for help." I couldn't speak, couldn't process it. Mike continued, his voice hollow. "What does that make me? She showed more humanity than I did. A wild animal showed more mercy, more hope, more... God, Tommy, what have I become?" The helicopter was close now, the whoop, whoop, whoop of rotors cutting through the air. "You can change," I managed. "It's not too late." "How? How do I fix this?" "Fill in the pits. Stop killing. Let them live." I grabbed his hand weakly. "Choose mercy, Mike, like you used to, before the war took it from you." Tears ran down his weathered face. "I don't know if I remember how." "Then learn again. We both have to." The helicopter was overhead now, the downdraft whipping through the trees, voices shouting, people running. Mike squeezed my hand. "I'll fill them in, all of them. I swear to God, Tommy, I'll fill every one." "Thank you." "And Tommy, about Vietnam, about what I said, about never forgiving you." His voice cracked. "I was wrong. You made the right call. I know that now. I should have known it then. Mike, I forgive you. For whatever it's worth, after 45 years, I forgive you." Something in my chest loosened. Not the pain, that was still there, crushing and terrible, but something else, something I'd carried since 1969, the weight of Mike's hatred, the guilt of that impossible choice. "I forgive you too," I whispered. Paramedics surrounded us. Someone was checking my vitals, putting an oxygen mask on my face, shouting medical terms I didn't understand. Mike stood, backed away to give them room, but he didn't leave. He stayed right there, watching. And through the chaos of EMTs and equipment, through the pain and the fear and the darkness creeping in at the edges of my vision, I saw a familiar face pushing through the crowd. Jenny, my daughter, running toward me, her face streaked with tears. "Dad!" she screamed. "Dad!" She dropped to her knees beside me, and I saw her clearly for the first time in 2 years. Older. Tired. "But still my Jenny. I'm here," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I tried to speak, but the oxygen mask muffled everything. She pulled an envelope from her jacket. "Mom's letter. I read it. Dad, I didn't know. I didn't know what you did, how much you sacrificed." The EMTs were lifting me onto a stretcher. Jenny grabbed my hand. "Don't you dare die. You hear me? Don't you dare leave me now that I finally understand." I squeezed her hand weakly. And as they loaded me into the helicopter, as the world spun and tilted and the pain reached a crescendo I wasn't sure I'd survive, I thought, maybe I did enough. Maybe I finally got one thing right. I died in the helicopter. Not forever, obviously, since I'm telling you this story, but for 93 seconds I was gone. The EMTs told me later when I asked. 93 seconds of nothing, flatline, no heartbeat, no breath, just gone. They used the defibrillator twice, shocked my heart back into rhythm while Jenny watched from 3 feet away, screaming my name. I don't remember any of it. No white light, no tunnel, no deceased loved ones waiting on the other side, just darkness, and then waking up 3 days later in a hospital bed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. When the helicopter landed at Kalispell Regional Medical Center, I was technically alive again but critical. They rushed me into emergency surgery. 2 stents to open blocked arteries, medications I can't pronounce, machines doing the work my heart couldn't manage on its own. Jenny never left. Not during the surgery, not during the 48 hours in ICU, not during the slow crawl back to consciousness. She slept in a chair beside my bed, ate vending machine food, and refused to go home even when the nurses insisted. On the 3rd day, I opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was Jenny's face, pale and exhausted, her hand wrapped around mine. "Dad," she whispered. "Oh, thank God, thank God." I tried to speak. My throat was raw from the breathing tube they'd removed the night before. "Don't talk," she said quickly. "Just rest. You're okay. You're going to be okay." But I needed to talk, needed to say what I should have said 2 years ago. "Jenny," I croaked. "I'm sorry." "Dad, no. Let me finish, please." I squeezed her hand weakly. "Your mother, the nursing home. I should have told you the truth. I know the truth now. Mom's letter. I sold everything. The house, the car, everything I'd spent 40 years building, and it still wasn't enough. I slept in that place every night because I couldn't stand the thought of her being alone. But she didn't remember me. She looked at me like I was a stranger who'd imprisoned her." Jenny's tears fell onto our joined hands. Mom explained it all in the letter. She told me it was her choice, that she made you promise to put her there because she didn't want me sacrificing my career to care for her. She said you begged to keep her home, but she insisted. I failed her anyway. "No." Jenny's voice was fierce. "You loved her every single day, even when she couldn't love you back. That's not failure, Dad. That's, that's everything. I closed my eyes. I should have told you. I should have asked. I should have trusted you. Instead, I spent 2 years hating you for something you didn't do. Her voice broke. I wasted 2 years, Dad. 2 years we can't get back. We have now. That counts. Does it? After everything I said at the funeral? After I cut you out of my life? Out of Lily's life? Jenny. I opened my eyes and looked directly at her. I've held grudges. I've let pride destroy relationships. I spent 45 years not speaking to a man who needed forgiveness as much as I did. Don't do what I did. Don't waste time on regret. How can you forgive me so easily? Because you're my daughter. Because life's too short. Because I'm 67 years old and I just died in a helicopter. And the only thing I thought about in those last seconds was how much I wished I'd called you. How much I wished you knew I never stopped loving you. Jenny collapsed onto my chest, sobbing. I wrapped my arms around her, weak, trembling arms, but around her nonetheless. I love you, she choked out. I love you so much and I'm so sorry. I love you too, baby girl. Always have, always will. We stayed like that until a nurse came in and gently suggested Jenny let me rest. But before she left to get coffee, she said something that made my battered heart ache with hope. Lily's here, in the waiting room with Martha. She wants to meet you. I want to meet her too. She's nervous. She's 8, and she's only seen you in one old photograph. She thinks she's worried you won't like her. That's impossible. I told her that, but maybe you could tell her yourself? Jenny managed a small smile. When you're feeling stronger. Bring her now. Dad, you just woke up. Jenny, I've waited 8 years. I'm not waiting another minute. So Jenny left and returned 5 minutes later with a little girl who had Elizabeth's blue eyes and my stubborn chin. Lily hung back near the door, clutching a stuffed wolf to her chest. She was tiny, all long legs and messy blonde hair, wearing jeans with grass stains and a t-shirt that said, "Save the Wolves." "Hi, sweetheart," I said, my voice still rough but steady. "I'm your grandpa." She didn't move. Just stared at me with those blue eyes. "I know I look scary right now," I continued. "All these tubes and wires, but I promise I'm not scary usually, just old and stubborn." A tiny smile flickered across her face. "Your mom tells me you like wolves." Lily nodded. "Me too. In fact, I just saved a wolf pup a few days ago. Well, saved is a strong word. More like I helped out a mama wolf who asked very nicely. Mommy said you died." "I did. For a little bit, but I came back." "Why?" "Because I hadn't met you yet. Seemed rude to die before introducing myself to my granddaughter." Lily took a step closer, then another. "Mommy says you're a hero." "No, honey. Your mommy's the hero. She came back for me. She forgave me when I didn't deserve it. That's the real bravery." Lily was beside the bed now, looking at all the medical equipment with fascination and fear. "Does it hurt?" "A little. But not as much as not knowing you hurt." "That hurt worse than anything. Mommy said you never forgot about me. She said you kept my picture in your wallet." "I did. I do. Want to see?" Jenny retrieved my wallet from the belongings bag. Inside, creased and worn, was the photograph Jenny had sent 3 years ago. Lily, at 5 years old, grinning with missing front teeth, holding a dandelion. Lily looked at the photo, then at me. "You really kept it?" "Every single day. I'd look at it and think about what I'd say when I finally met you. I had a whole speech planned." "What was it?" "I forget now, but I think it was something like, 'Hi, Lily. I'm sorry I wasn't there before. I promise to be there now. if you'll let me." Lily considered this seriously. Then she held out her stuffed wolf. "This is Shadow. He's my favorite. Do you want to hold him?" I took the worn stuffed animal carefully, like it was made of glass. "I'm honored to meet Shadow. He keeps the nightmares away. He sounds very brave. Not as brave as you. You saved a real wolf. That's way braver than a stuffed one. You know what I think? I think being brave is being scared, but doing the thing anyway. Like coming into this room even though you were nervous. That's brave, Lily." She thought about that. Then, slowly, carefully, she climbed onto the chair beside my bed. "Can I visit you every day? I'd like that very much. Can you tell me the story about the wolf? The real one?" "Absolutely. But it's kind of a long story." "That's okay. I like long stories." She settled into the chair, hugging Shadow. "Grandpa?" "Yes, sweetheart. I'm glad you didn't stay dead." I laughed, which hurt my chest but felt wonderful anyway. "Me too, Lily. Me too." On the 5th day in the hospital, Martha Ellis arrived with an envelope that changed everything. She was a small woman, 74 years old, with silver hair pulled back in a practical bun, and the kind eyes of someone who'd seen too much loss. She'd been my neighbor for 12 years, bringing me casseroles I didn't eat and company I didn't deserve. Martha walked into my room while Jenny was down in the cafeteria with Lily. She pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down with the deliberate movements of someone about to deliver difficult news. "Tom," she said, "I need to give you something I should have given you 2 years ago, but Elizabeth made me promise to wait for the right time." She held out a sealed envelope. My name was written on the front in Elizabeth's handwriting from before, when her hand was still steady. "What is this?" "Read it, then we'll talk." My hand shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, 3 pages, dated 2 weeks before Elizabeth's Alzheimer's diagnosis became official. Back when she still had clarity, still knew what was coming. "My dearest Tom, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And knowing you, you're probably blaming yourself for every decision we made in those final months. So I'm writing this to tell you, in my own words while I still have words, that you did everything right. The nursing home was my choice, not yours, mine. I know you wanted to keep me home. I know you promised to care for me no matter what. But Tom, I couldn't let you destroy yourself trying to save me from something neither of us could stop. I made you promise to put me in professional care when I could no longer recognize you. Do you remember that conversation? It was March 15th, 3 days after the diagnosis. We were sitting in our kitchen, and you were crying so hard you couldn't speak. I held your hands, and I made you swear you'd do what I asked. You didn't want to. God, you fought me on it. But I insisted, because I knew what was coming. I knew I'd forget you. I knew I'd say terrible things. I knew I'd accuse you of abandoning me. And I couldn't bear the thought of you hearing those words and believing them. Tom, you sold our house. Our beautiful house with 40 years of memories. You sold your truck, the one you restored yourself, the one you loved almost as much as you loved me. You sold your boat, your tools, everything you'd worked your entire life to build. I know about the debt. Martha told me before I lost the ability to understand finances. I know you're still paying it off. I know you're struggling, and I know you slept in that chair beside my bed every single night for 14 months. The nurses told me, in my clear moments, they said you'd arrive when visiting hours started and leave when they forced you out. They said you'd talk to me for hours, telling me stories about our life together, trying to help me remember. They said that even when I didn't know your name, even when I screamed at you to leave, even when I treated you like a stranger I hated, you never stopped coming. That's love, Tom. Real love. The kind that doesn't need recognition or reward. The kind that persists even when it's not returned. I need you to know something else. Something I made Martha promise to tell Jenny, but only when the time was right. Jenny is angry at you. I know she is. I know she thinks you gave up on me, that you chose the easy path. She's wrong, and I need her to know that. I need her to know that you begged me not to make you promise, that you wanted to care for me at home until the very end, that putting me in that facility destroyed you. But more than that, I need her to know why I made that choice. I didn't want her sacrificing her career to care for me. She would have, Tom. You know she would have. She would have quit her job, moved back home, given up everything to be my caretaker. And I couldn't let that happen. I wanted her to remember me as her mother, not as her burden. And I wanted you to survive this. If I'd stayed home, if you'd tried to care for me alone, it would have killed you. The stress, the exhaustion, the heartbreak of watching me disappear piece by piece, it would have destroyed you. At least in the nursing home, professionals could help. At least you could go home at night, even if you didn't. At least there was a chance you'd survive my death. Tom, I'm writing this while I still can because I need you to hear it. You were the best husband any woman could ask for. You loved me fiercely and completely for 42 years. You caught me every time I fell. This time, the fall was too far, but that's not your fault. Please don't spend your remaining years punishing yourself. Don't let pride keep you from Jenny. Don't die alone in that cabin because you're too stubborn to admit you need help. Live, Tom. Really live. Find joy. Make peace with our daughter. Meet your granddaughter. Let people love you. And when you think of me, don't remember the confused, angry woman in that bed who didn't know your face. Remember the girl who married you in a church basement. Remember the woman who danced with you in our kitchen. Remember the life we built together? That's who I was. That's who I'll always be. I love you, Thomas Walker. I loved you from the moment we met until the moment my mind couldn't hold memories anymore. And wherever I am now, whatever comes after, I'm still loving you. Live for both of us. Forever yours, Elizabeth P.S. Stop eating those terrible peanut butter sandwiches every day. Martha has my recipe book. Use it. I couldn't see the page anymore. Couldn't see anything through the tears. Martha's hand covered mine. She gave me this letter 2 years ago. Made me promise to give it to Jenny after you were gone, but when Jenny called me the other day, angry and heartbroken about not seeing you, I knew it was time she read it, that you both needed to read it. You gave this to Jenny? 3 days ago, right before she called you, right before you went into that forest and saved that wolf pup. Martha's voice was gentle. Tom, she knows everything now. She knows what you sacrificed. She knows it was her mother's choice. She knows you never gave up. I should have told her. 2 years ago, I should have explained. Would she have listened? Would either of you have heard each other through all that grief and anger? Martha shook her head. Sometimes people need time, and sometimes they need their mother's words from beyond the grave to knock sense into them. I looked at the letter again, at Elizabeth's handwriting. She knew exactly what would happen. She knew you. She knew Jenny. She knew you were both too proud and too hurt to bridge that gap without help. Martha stood, patting my shoulder. Your wife was a smart woman, Tom Walker. Smart enough to plan for reconciliation even from her sick bed. I miss her. I know you do. We all do. Martha moved toward the door, then paused. But, Tom, she was right about one thing. It's time to live. Really live. Your daughter's here. Your granddaughter thinks you're a hero. Don't waste this second chance. After Martha left, I sat with that letter for a long time. Read it 3 more times. Let Elizabeth's words, her real words, her true feelings, sink into the places that had been hollow for 2 years. She'd forgiven me. She'd never blamed me. She'd loved me until her last clear moment, and she'd given me permission to live. When Jenny returned with Lily, I was still holding the letter. "Martha gave you yours," Jenny said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Yeah. She wrote one for each of us." "Mine said," Jenny's voice caught, "mine said to stop being so stubborn, that I inherited that from both of you, that she loved me, and that I should forgive you because you did nothing wrong. She was always smarter than both of us. Dad, there's something else." Jenny sat on the edge of my bed. "Something you need to know about the nursing home debt." My chest tightened. Not a heart attack this time, just dread. "What about it?" "It's paid off. Someone paid the entire $18,000 3 months ago. Anonymous payment, cashier's check." The room spun. "What? Who?" "I did some digging. Called the billing department, talked to the administrator." Jenny pulled out her phone, showed me an email. "The payment came through a law office in Kalispell. They wouldn't give me a name, but I pushed. Finally got them to confirm the client." "Jenny, who paid my debt?" She met my eyes. "Michael Caldwell." 6 months later, I stood in Jenny's backyard watching Lily chase fireflies in the dusk. I'd been living with them since leaving the hospital. Medical retirement, they called it. My ranger days were over. The heart attack had seen to that. 2 stents, a pharmacy's worth of medications, and strict orders to avoid stress and physical exertion. But I wasn't alone anymore. That made all the difference. Jenny's house was small, a 3-bedroom rental on the outskirts of Kalispell, but it was full of life, full of Lily's laughter, Jenny's cooking experiments, movie nights on the couch. I had my own room, helped with homework, picked Lily up from school every day in Jenny's Honda. We were making it work, barely, financially speaking. Jenny still worked 2 jobs. I contributed my pension. We ate a lot of pasta and homemade soup, but we ate together, and that was everything. "Grandpa!" Lily ran over, a firefly cupped in her hands. "Look, I caught one." "That's a big one." "Better let him go before his family misses him." She opened her hands carefully, watching the insect fly away. "Do you think the wolf puppy is big now?" "I bet he is." "Can we go see them? Please, you promised." I had promised. 6 months of recovery, of building strength, of learning to live with a heart that needed gentle handling. But I'd promised Lily we'd return to that forest, that we'd try to find the wolves. "Tomorrow's Saturday," I said. "What do you think, Jenny?" Jenny appeared from the kitchen, dish towel over her shoulder. "I think I can take a day off. Haven't had one in 3 months anyway." So the next morning we drove out to Forest Road 12. All 3 of us in Jenny's car, Lily bouncing in the back seat with excitement, me with my cane and my medications and my stubborn determination to make this trip. We parked at mile marker 7. The pit was gone, filled in completely, grass already growing over the disturbed earth. True to his word, Mike Caldwell had eliminated every trap on his property. I'd heard through Sarah that he'd even spoken to the county commission about wolf management, advocating for non-lethal deterrence. People could change. Even after 45 years of anger, they could choose different. We walked slowly into the forest, me leaning on my cane, Jenny holding Lily's hand. The morning was cool and clear, sunlight filtering through pine trees. "Will they remember you?" Lily whispered. "I don't know, sweetheart. They're wild animals. They might not even be here anymore." We reached the clearing where I'd pulled the pup from the mud, stood quietly, waiting. For 15 minutes, nothing happened. Just bird calls and wind through branches. Then Lily pointed, "Grandpa, look." 3 wolves emerged from the tree line about 50 yards away. The female I'd called Luna, larger now, healthy and strong. The male, Storm, still limping slightly but moving with confidence. And between them, A young wolf, nearly full-grown, silver-gray coat gleaming in the morning light. The pup. 6 months old now, almost as big as his mother. That's them, I breathed. That's really them. Luna stopped, sat, her yellow eyes fixed on me. Recognition flashed across her face. I'd swear it in any court. She remembered. Storm stood beside her, watchful but not threatening. The young wolf, I'd started calling him Ash in my mind, though he'd never know that name, took a curious step forward. Storm made a soft sound, a gentle correction. The youngster stopped but stayed alert, interested in these strange humans. Lily clutched my hand. They're beautiful. They are. We stood there for several minutes, two families acknowledging each other across an impossible distance. No danger, no fear, just mutual respect. Then Luna stood, turned to leave, but before she disappeared into the trees, she looked back, held my gaze for one long moment. "Thank you," her eyes seemed to say, "for my baby, for choosing mercy." "You're welcome," I thought back. "Thank you for reminding me what matters." And then they were gone, melting into the forest like smoke. Lily looked up at me, eyes shining. "Did you see? She remembered you." "Yeah, baby, she did." Jenny put her arm around my shoulders. "Mom would have loved this story. She would have thought I was crazy." "Probably, but she would have been proud too." We walked back to the car, slowly, Lily chattering about wolves, Jenny planning lunch, me thinking about how strange life was. How you could be, at your lowest point, ready to give up entirely, and then something, someone, reminds you why living matters. A wolf asked for help. A daughter came back. A granddaughter learned to trust. An old enemy became an old friend again. At 67, I'd died and come back. Not in some mystical sense, but literally, 93 seconds of nothing. And then a second chance. I wasn't going to waste it. As we drove away from the forest, Lily asked, "Grandpa, can you tell me the story again? From the beginning?" Jenny laughed. "You've heard it 100 times. But I like how Grandpa tells it." I caught Jenny's eye in the rearview mirror. She smiled, and I smiled back. "All right," I said, settling into my seat. So there I was on what I thought was my last patrol, 67 years old, alone in the world, figuring I had more yesterdays than tomorrows. "But then what happened?" Lily asked, even though she knew every word. "Then a wolf reminded me that tomorrow's worth showing up for." Jenny reached over and squeezed my hand. And driving down that Montana highway, 3 generations together, I realized something Elizabeth had known all along. Life isn't about catching every fall. Sometimes you fall, and it hurts, and you think you can't get back up. But if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, someone's there to help you stand. Whether that someone has 2 legs or 4 doesn't matter much at all. What matters is gratitude for second chances, for family, for the stubborn, beautiful persistence of hope. I was grateful for everything. Sometimes we think our best years are behind us. We look at the mistakes we've made, the relationships we've broken, the time we've wasted on pride and stubbornness, and we wonder if it's too late to start over. Tom Walker thought he was invisible, that nobody cared if he came home at night. He'd lost his wife to a disease he couldn't fight, lost his daughter to a misunderstanding he couldn't fix, and lost himself somewhere along the way. But here's what Tom learned in that Montana forest. It's never too late to choose differently. Never too late to show mercy. Never too late to rebuild what's broken. That wolf didn't see an old man past his usefulness. She saw someone who'd shown kindness once and might do it again. Sometimes all we need is one moment of courage, one choice to help instead of turning away, to remember why we're still here, because we are still here. We still matter. Our stories aren't finished. So here's my question for you. When was the last time you chose mercy over pride? When did you last take a chance on hope? Share your story in the comments below. Let's remind each other that tomorrow's worth showing up for